Welcome to the Mind for Success podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Lebbing, and I love seeing business professionals, leaders, and entrepreneurs have massive success in their businesses. Are you ready to reach a higher level in your business? Are you looking to rise to the top and break through the barriers that are holding you back? If this is you, join us on the Mind for Success podcast. Hello and welcome to the Mind for Success podcast. My name is Kimberly Lebbing. I am your host, and I just want to thank you for being here today. This week, I'm going to be talking about the power of shifting your energy and strategies that you can use for creating a more positive mindset. And what do I mean? First, I want to define energy. What do I mean by that? So defining energy. So have you ever walked into a room? Maybe it's networking, maybe it's in your own home or someone else's, and there's someone else there. They haven't said a word, and you can literally feel the heaviness or the negativity coming from them. Maybe they had a bad day. Maybe they're in that mode a lot, but you can feel it before they've ever said a word. On the other side of that, have you ever walked into a room, or maybe this is you yourself, or you've been at a networking event and someone else walks in the room and they are the opposite? You can literally feel the positivity coming from them, and almost feels like you can see a light from them, or you can feel it. That is what I mean by energy. The energy that we show up in affects how we interact with people. It affects our communication. It affects our networking. It affects our ability to communicate with the people that we love in our personal relationships. And it also affects our business and whether or not people, clients, customers want to do business with us. And what sometimes happens is some of the negative things that we have going on, some of these subconscious beliefs that we have that have happened way back here that we're sometimes not even aware of, that it impacts our energy. And people can feel that whether you say it or not. They can feel that, and they will respond accordingly. I mean, if you've ever had somebody say a customer or client say no to something, and you're like, what? I mean, sometimes people pick up on our beliefs about money, or whether or not maybe our confidence. They pick up on all of those things. Maybe there's a people-pleasing aspect to us that I talk about that a lot. It's on a previous episode. And they feel that energy of that, and they respond to that. 70% of our communication is nonverbal. So I'm going to be talking about the nonverbal parts of communication today, and how that affects our energy, and just some simple tools that you can do to shift that so that you can get better results in your life, in your relationships, and in your business. So I'll begin with one of the easiest ways that you can shift your energy. And I want to say this first, before I go into any networking event or have a conversation with anyone in the business world. Sometimes I forget this personally when I'm with family or in the moment or whatever, because you're just responding. But anytime I'm out and about, I check in with myself and pause first and check in with what are my intentions about going into this event. That alone can give you an energy shift. But one of the things that I wanted to say was the easiest thing to shift is your physiology. So your physiology is a huge part of your communication, and it's the easiest shift that you can make. And what I mean by that is sometimes, after you've done that check-in, and it's like if you've had a hectic day or a hectic morning or something, and then you go head into meet with some potential new clients or a new customer or a networking event, whatever it is, sometimes the events of the previous events are things that were moving with us. And because of that heaviness, we'll even carry it, like we'll carry it in our bodies and our shoulders. I spoke with a professional in sales yesterday, actually, who was carrying this in her upper back and shoulders really heavily because it was just weighing down on her. And when we're like that, we may have a tendency to be, hunched over and not really showing up the way we want to show up. And it'll impact our business. And then that whole event, because you're putting off the wrong energy, the energy that you don't want, it's not going to be as effective. And you're not going to you're not going to communicate to the people that you want to meet as well as you could have. So a simple shift in your physiology can make a big difference. So like I said, if you're all hunched over, if you think about people that are depressed, how do they walk? Usually their head is down, they're kind of hunched over. But if you can shift that, check in, shift that, stand up straight and tall, check in with yourself. Like, how are you carrying yourself as you're walking into something? Because that simple shift in your physiology that starts firing off the receptors in your brain that, oh, this is confidence, or oh, this is a different energy than what we were in before. And they start to connect, and that is what kind of energy you will end up in as you go in to meet with your customer or go into the event or whatever the thing is. It's really, really a simple thing to do. It's just something you have to think about first. Okay, the second thing that I wanted to talk to, and this may go in play with what I mentioned very first about what your intention is, and that is sometimes our energy is not in the place that we want it to be, and we forget one of the simplest ways to shift it is by gratitude, practicing gratitude. So gratitude can make a huge, huge difference in your mindset, in how you show up. It can help shift the beliefs that you have. It can be really, really big. So practice gratitude in order to shift your energy. And you can use this even if you've had a bad day, if you've had a hectic morning, pause, slow down, and think about the things that you are grateful for. There's always something, because that's another easy way that you can shift the energy that you are showing up in. So practice gratitude. Next, I want to talk about affirmations and positive self-talk. This morning, I was actually at a networking event, and one of the members stood up and talked about how he asked a question of the group, and that was, would you talk to someone else in the same way that you talk to yourself? And a lot of people, in fact, one of them said, no, I'd probably punch myself in the face if someone talked to me like that. So being aware of our self-talk is really big. And even if you can step out of that and think of yourself as someone else, and, is this how I would talk to my child? Is this how I would talk to my friend? And remembering that, unfortunately, it's one of those things that is very natural. Negative self-talk is very natural. I know the way that I grew up,
I grew up in a home where my dad was just constantly putting me down. He was really young when they had me, and it was just a lot of, I mean, they were basically teenagers. And so there was a lot of almost bullying kind of things to me, and it affected me my whole entire life. So that was programmed in, and I had to really, really, really work hard to reprogram myself so that I wasn't having those thoughts and those words coming in as much as they used to. And that's literally been years. So make sure you're paying attention to your self-talk. And then I want to touch on affirmations because this goes along with it. Affirmations is something that can be very, very, very powerful. And I'll probably do a whole separate podcast on this subject because they can also not be good if you're not doing the right ones. And I'll say this, what is right for me may not be right for you. I was talking with a client that's in a group that I am facilitating, and she on her own had created some affirmations based on some of the shifts that we've been working on for her. And one of the ones that she created, she said, every time I read it, I just don't feel good. And then she was thinking that she had another limiting belief around that word. I think the word was success. And what I told her, now we hadn't been in that part of the group where we talk about how to do them in a different way. But I told her to stop doing it because if your subconscious mind is not ready to receive the affirmation, if your belief is the opposite, so if your belief is I'm not successful and you're saying something that says I am successful, it was longer. I don't remember what it was exactly, but something to that effect. Your subconscious mind, that barrier is there. It's going to reject it. And it's actually going to do the opposite of what you want. It's going to make you feel worse. So I would say if it doesn't feel aligned with you, just check in with yourself. If you are somebody that's doing affirmations, do a check-in with yourself and make sure that it feels right. Affirmations, as the word implies, is supposed to affirm what you already believe, affirming a new energy. So what we do with clients and in my groups is we shift them into a new energy, and then we affirm and we help them integrate into that energy so that it becomes a belief. But if you're not quite ready, so this client was jumping the gun, we hadn't done that part yet. And if you're not quite ready for it, it can actually do more damage than good. So I want to say that about affirmations. So you can do your own check-in on this to see if they align, and it's just a pay attention to how you feel when you do it. You should not feel bad. There should be no bad feelings whenever you do affirmations. And what I teach my clients is a different way of doing them so that the subconscious mind can really take them in and absorb them. And we form them in the form of questions instead, so that your subconscious mind can receive it. So that's what I want to say about affirmations. I literally could talk about that probably in an entire podcast because I'll kind of go back on a backstory, trail off a little bit. And because I was in a mindset training for years, and he was great. He did a lot of positive things. There were some negative things there too, but there was a lot of positive shifts I had with him. And one of the main ways that he helped people shift was through affirmations. And what I saw people do was people would come in, and if they were in a really, hadn't done any of that work before, they really hadn't worked on the beliefs that they had first. So they went straight to the affirmations. And I saw people tear them up and not do them. And just because they were so not aligned with what their internal beliefs were. So I now know that it's really important that you are aligned with whatever you are telling yourself, because that is going to have a much greater, faster effect on you. Because you can tell yourself the biggest, greatest affirmation in the world, but if you have a subconscious conflict with it, it's not going to do you any good. And like I said, could also possibly even put you in the direction that you don't want. Okay. Now I want to talk a little bit about another way of asking questions to refocus your energy. So again, if you have had a bad morning or bad week, or maybe you didn't get that deal that you thought you were going to get, and you're getting ready to step into another client meeting or network meeting, one of the things that I talk to my clients about, and my sales teams that I work with, is how to ask yourself the right questions. So, and this is another thing I could probably do an entire podcast on, because most of the time we spend our time asking ourselves the wrong questions. And what they do, they actually, this goes back to the self-talk, they trigger negative self-talk the way most of us ask ourselves questions. And I'll give you an example, a business example. So it could be, so you had let's say you had a bad month. You didn't reach your goals, and you instantly in your head go, why didn't I have more deals closed? Well, when you ask yourself that question, it immediately goes into, well, you didn't follow up. You weren't consistent. You weren't, and your brain will point out every single negative thing that you did or didn't do, and point that out. And as you may or may not know, what you focus on grows. So it's asking yourself the wrong questions. Now, it's important to reflect. So you can also turn those questions into, like, what could I have done differently? If it's that, then that's a different sort of thing. But asking yourself different types of questions, like, how can I focus more on my business today? What kind of steps can I take with this client that will allow them to hear me? How can I best serve this client? What connections can I make in this, or what value or what connections can I make as I walk into this networking meeting? So asking yourself questions in a way that doesn't trigger those negative responses that our brains sometimes do is another easy way that you can shift the energy that you are showing up in. So, and it's a very valuable tool. Okay. And lastly, I want to talk about shifting subconscious limitations. As I mentioned in the beginning, if you have some things, and we all do, so here's a secret, it doesn't matter how successful you are, or how much you've been working on yourself. We all have these layers and these subconscious limitations. And we're all like big onions. So there's layers and layers and layers to this. And there's always something that we can be working on. So I will say that first. So if you're listening to this and going, oh no, that's not me, there's probably even something in that response. So I would be curious, honestly, about that response and how many other things you are cutting yourself off to, because when we have that attitude that we don't need something, or it's not for me, or I already heard this, I already know that, you're literally cutting off your brain to learn new things and to be open. So, and if you're doing that even in a conversation like this, you may be doing it with opportunities and other things that would help you grow both your business and your personal relationships. So be aware that those subconscious limitations are there. And if you are consistently showing up in a energy of frustration and overwhelm, and maybe there's some people pleasing and some other things going on, I would encourage you to dig into that, because it's the shifting the energy before you do that deep work is really hard. It can be, so you can do it. I did it for years before I knew the work that I am doing now, actually with that other coach that did just the affirmations. It was like a Band-Aid. It didn't really get to the core of what was going on for me. And it didn't really dig into the real reasons of why I was doing what I was doing. And I was like constantly fighting myself, and it was exhausting. I did have some good results, but it was really exhausting to constantly be staying on top of that. And I will say that after doing the deep work, it just makes a huge difference in everything when you walk in to networking and working with clients and customers. When that is shifted, it makes your business easier and lighter. So I have a free resource for you, a free guide, and it'll be in the show notes so you can download it. So if that's something you want to look into, it is called Unlocking Your Authentic Self, 5 Key Steps to Identify and Overcome Hidden Limitations in Your Life and Business and Realize Your Highest Potential. So I would encourage you to check that out, because it will help you identify what some of those hidden limitations might be. So I want to thank you for being on today. I appreciate your time. And if you haven't already, I would really, really appreciate it if you would rate this podcast. If you're listening on Apple, especially, that helps our ratings and gets us out to more people. Thank you so much for listening.
Are you ready to break through the barriers that are holding you back and reach a higher level in your business in just 4 hours? Be sure to click the link today and join other high-achieving professionals that have worked with Kimberly Lebbing to accelerate their success.